This is the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K. Now, at the time of recording this, technically there are 3 Pocket Cinema cameras out in the wild. There's the original Pocket Cinema camera, which was actually pocketable with the right lens, and it was HD only and only went up to 30p, shot cinema DNG and different flavors of ProRes. Then they came out with this one, which is the Pocket 4K, and then just recently they released the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K. 3 versions of the Pocket camera, HD, 4K, and 6K. In this video, we're going to focus on the 4K version of this camera because, as the title suggests, this is kind of my 1-year review of this camera. I'm going to do my arm a favor and put this camera down because I don't want to hold this during the whole time recording this because who knows how long it's going to actually take me to record this. So, I'm going to put this down. To kick things off, the first thing that I'll probably say about this camera and what I tell everybody that asks me about this camera is I do think it is the best bang for your buck camera out there, just because of the price. And not only do you get the camera, but you also get DaVinci Resolve Studio with it at $1,300 new. With that being said, I'm going to talk about the things that I really do like about this camera, having used it for the last 12 months. The first thing is obviously image quality. The image quality coming out of this camera is absolutely beautiful. Whether you're shooting in ProRes or Blackmagic RAW, you can get an amazing looking image just right out of the camera. Shooting ProRes, you can kind of bake the LUT in that you're using if that's what you want to go with, or you can record in a log format and grade it afterwards, which is kind of what I would recommend. Or you can shoot in Blackmagic RAW, and the possibilities of grading that are pretty much endless. And that's kind of the next thing I want to go into is recording codecs. And yeah, we all know ProRes is a really great codec, and I think it is often overlooked because this camera does record in Blackmagic RAW, but there are a lot of projects that I actually use ProRes on as well, especially if I'm recording conferences or keynotes or something like that, and I'm handing the footage off. 9 times out of 10, I'm going to shoot in ProRes, even HD, just to hand it off. It's edit ready, and a lot of times I'll just bake the LUT in to the ProRes footage, especially if it's in an environment where I'm controlling the lighting. And that's when I'm handing the footage off. If I'm recording the footage myself, I'm usually using Blackmagic RAW, but ProRes is something that you shouldn't overlook or discount. It is an amazing codec, and it is very robust and very easy to grade. So yeah, ProRes is an amazing codec. I wouldn't discount it just because the camera shoots RAW. However, on the flip side, Blackmagic RAW, in my opinion, is better than ProRes in every way possible. It edits just as easily and smoothly as ProRes, but you have all the benefits of changing metadata like your white balance and your ISO and all that kind of stuff. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is the dynamic range, and for some reason, I don't know why that this is such a point of contention with people, but apparently 13 stops of dynamic range just isn't enough these days. You gotta have 16 or 17 or 400 stops of dynamic range. I don't really get it. The Pocket Cinema Camera 4K and the 6K have 13 stops of dynamic range. 6K handles highlights a little bit better, but that's for a different video. But the Pocket 4K still has plenty of dynamic range. Now, would I welcome more stops of dynamic range? Of course, but you gotta remember, at least for me, when I'm delivering to web like weddings or anything like that, I'm sticking into the Rec 709 color space, kind of broadcast safe or whatever you want to call it, and you're not gonna be exporting 13 stops of dynamic range. But I will say the benefit of having a wider dynamic range is highlight roll-off. And the beauty of this camera is the highlight roll-off is beautiful on this camera. It looks very filmic. And so although it's only 13 stops of dynamic range, it's plenty enough to have beautiful looking highlight roll-off, and you can recover a ton of information when shooting in Blackmagic RAW. Frame rates is another thing that I really do like about this camera. You can record 4K all the way up to 60 frames per second in Blackmagic RAW, and then you can shoot in 120 frames per second in an HD windowed sensor, but you can record that in Blackmagic RAW as well, which if you do record 120p on the camera, I would recommend shooting in either Q0 or 3:1 compression to get the highest bitrate you can possible. Because of the windowed sensor, you just want to be able to capture as much data as you can. So yeah, pro tip there. Hopefully with a firmware update, we saw on the Pocket 6K where you crop the top and bottom of the camera and you shoot in the 2:4:1 ratio or whatever, you can get more frame rates out of it. So hopefully maybe Blackmagic will introduce that to the 4K and do some crop modes and maybe be able to squeeze out a higher frames per second in 4K or a higher frames per second with a different windowing in HD. So anyways, more to come on that, but that's not out yet, and I don't know when that's coming out, but that would be pretty cool, Blackmagic. And it seems like anytime I make a video like this, with like, I don't know why, but an update is done like right after this video, and it kind of makes a lot of what I talk about in a video kind of useless. So I'm hoping that me making this video and putting all the work into this 12-month review will just kind of spark the timing again, and an update will come out. So if an update comes out fairly soon, you're welcome. That's just my luck, and I'll make another video in the future. The other thing I really like about this camera are the input-output options of this camera. You got XLR. Although it's mini XLR, you can get an adapter to full-size XLR, and it provides phantom power, which is huge. And then you also have a 3.5mm input. So if you have a like a wireless system, like a RØDE Link wireless system, or something that uses a 3.5mm input, you can definitely run that. And the cool thing is you can actually kind of use both those options at the same time. So you know, if I'm recording an interview just on the pocket camera, I'll run a boom mic overhead, and then I'll put a lav on them as well, either hide it or have it visible, whatever the case may be. And I'll run the audio. I'll run one channel on the left to the shotgun mic, and the channel on the right to the lav mic. And I kind of have dual audio right there. Kind of have a backup audio, so pretty awesome there. Two quick things on the user interface that I really like. Number one, the function buttons, being able to customize those function buttons, and I'll go over that in a second of what I've done. And then also the high frame rate button. It's just so helpful to be able to switch from 24p to 60p or whatever high frame rate option that you have. Being able to switch from 24 to 60 or whatever with the push of a button is absolutely amazing. Okay, 4 more things that I'm going to go over real quick on this camera, and then we're going to kind of talk about a couple of things that I don't really like about the camera, and then we'll kind of wrap these things up. So first thing is the dual native ISO on the camera. It's amazing being able to go all the way up to 25,600, I think is what it is awesome. I don't actually use that. I haven't had the need to use that, I should say. I have used it just testing out, and with a little noise reduction, it is usable, and so if I was in a pinch, I would definitely use it. But it's really clean up to 6400 ISO, and it's amazing, and I love that, and especially shooting weddings and stuff like that. Being able to go that high in ISO on a Blackmagic camera is pretty amazing, and the only other camera that does that is the 6K version of the camera. So hopefully the next Ursa will do the same thing, have a dual native ISO. That'd be amazing. So yeah. The next thing is the exposure tools. Well, I guess just exposure tools, false color. They have zebras in there, but false color, in my opinion, just kind of makes a zebra's really not worth using, in my opinion, at least for my workflow. If you don't know what false color is, I have a video all about it, and I'll link it above, but it gives you basically exposure readings for the entire scene and not just highlights, so which is what zebras do. Yeah, so false color is amazing, and when I was talking about the custom function buttons, that's one of the things that I've toggled onto it, is to be able to toggle false color on and off, and I actually have that to toggle on the on-screen display on the camera, and then send it through HDMI as well. And the other button I have is to toggle focus peaking on and off, and that's just because I've found that I use that enough to want to toggle focus peaking on and off. And then the last one is clean feed, just for playback and all that kind of stuff. It just takes the whole on-screen display off. So yeah, that's great. The next thing is the lens mount. It is a micro 4/3 mount. It is active though, which is really awesome. Because of that, you're able to use adapters to pretty much utilize any lens out there. Personally, I use the Metabone Speed Booster. It widens your field of view, gives you an extra stop of light. The depth of field is shallower, I guess, because of the physics of the optics instead of the speed booster. So yeah, the lens mount is absolutely amazing to have on the camera. And the last thing, I think this is the last thing, if this isn't the last thing, I'm gonna make it the last thing, is the ability to rig this thing out. The size of the camera, although it's not pocketable in the sense like the actual original pocket camera was, it is still a small camera, and being able to rig the camera out to your needs is amazing. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. You can make a small camera big, but you can't make a big camera small. So being able to get the image out of the pocket camera with just a camera strap and a lens, which is kind of how I roll with travel, is amazing. And then for bigger shoots or interviews or weddings or something where I need a lot of battery life and I don't want to continue switching batteries, you can rig it up with a V-Lock battery and all that kind of stuff, and kind of make the camera kind of as big as you want to, and you can rig it out with bigger lenses and rails and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it's a tiny little body, and the body by itself works just fine. So all the good stuff being said, there are still kind of a few things that bother me about this camera. Number one being the port covers on the side of the camera. They annoy the absolute crap out of me. Not as much when the camera isn't in a cage, but when the camera's in a cage like it is right now, it's so hard to get to those little flaps. And no, actually, I take that back. They're just annoying at all times because they just kind of flop over. It's just annoying. I wish there was just a door that was on it instead of the little floppy things. You can take them out. I've seen people do that, but I still find value in having the ports covered up for dust or rain or anything like that. Just being able to protect the ports as much as possible is definitely worth having the port covers on. But I wish there was just a door or I don't know, something better than this solution. It annoyed me on the original 2.5K version. I just wish they would have improved that. The next thing is about playback. It is annoying that you have to kind of be in the codec and resolution or whatever that you shot in to be able to view the clips back. And I just wish there was an easier way to go through clips, maybe even to be able to like zoom out to see, you know, a grid of all the different clips. That would be really nice. This was kind of a rambler. Kind of was all over the place, but yeah, that's just kind of my experience using the camera a lot. Hope you found that useful, helpful, anything like that. I'm sure there's plenty of you that didn't like the video. Go ahead and hit that thumbs down if you want to. But if you did like it, hit that thumbs up button. I'd appreciate that. Consider hitting that subscribe button down below if you want to see more content like this, or if you just feel like being a nice person and making me feel good, you can hit that subscribe button. And then if you actually want to see my videos, you can hit that notification bell next to it, and that'll kind of notify you when I make more videos like this and other stuff. You can kind of see my whole feed and kind of what videos I make. No real rhyme or reason to it. I just kind of enjoy making videos. So yeah, hope you stick around. All that good stuff. Definitely comment down below. I'd love to know your thoughts on the Pocket Cinema Camera 4K. And yeah, I'm wondering how long you've had it, what you use it for, all that kind of stuff. Kind of keep that conversation going below. And to kind of end this video off with a question, if you were to film with either the Pocket 4K or the Pocket 6K, which camera do you prefer, or would you prefer, and why? Leave it down in the comments. Thanks, guys. I'll see you later. Peace.